First of all, for those who don't know, prisons have a lot of old books floating around them.
Right.
And in Texas, prison administrators don't like to throw away state resources. So when older prisons were basically condemned, they didn't destroy the books. They had prisoners go in, box them all up, and send them to another unit. And then they wouldn't get used because when the new unit opened, the community around that prison donated all new books. So with all the new books on the shelves, the old books get forgotten in boxes. So I did inventory in prison a lot. I was an SSI. That was the job description I had. It was called State Support Inmate, and I was all that. They pretty much find out what your skills are. Prison administrators will find out what your skill sets are, and then they will capitalize on them. So for me, it was really early on. They figured out that I was able to collate a tremendous amount of random data and put it all into a really good perspective. So I did inventory. I inventoried everything in maintenance, everything in supply, everything in warehousing, manufacturing, and logistics. And then they found out I could inventory all their old paperwork, books, and filing systems. So that's what I did. And I had access to so many old books that had been boxed up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, books falling apart. And when I developed this love for about 6 years, and I was going from prison to prison doing this. And the prisons I had no access to because I was a maximum security inmate. Maximum security can't go on medium or minimum security. So so I had those in the there is a mail system that's intra-system. It doesn't have anything to do with the U.S. Postal Service. Because there's so much material going from unit to unit between administrators that they have their own shuttle system when they're transferring inmates from different prisons. Materials also follow. So I started collecting all the books. I started writing libraries and librarians and other units and telling them what I was doing. I need these books over here, sent over here. In exchange, I would send them a bunch of books I've either read or whatever. One-for-one book exchanges. Well, after 6 years of doing this, I got in contact with Paul Tice of Booktree. He was Zechariah Sitchin's personal videographer. But when he and Zechariah Sitchin finished traveling the world and were no longer documenting all these things, and Zechariah Sitchin started publishing all his books, Paul Tice went into publishing. Right. Paul Tice started Booktree Press in San Diego, and he's published many books, one by Zechariah Sitchin, Jordan Maxwell, Jack Barringer, Neil Freer, the guy we just mentioned about breaking the gospel. Well, Paul Tice reprints books that are 500, 400, 300, 200 years old. Books that are published before World War II is his specialty. His catalog is fantastic. So I got a copy of that catalog, and I spent hundreds of dollars ordering those books. And then one day I sent him a manuscript. That manuscript became my first published book called The Lost Scriptures of Giza. It's all the occult and esoteric material that I had discovered about the Great Pyramid of Egypt that I haven't found in any modern books in the last 100 years.
And you never will either.
So I put this book out, and that instantly led to 5 more book contracts. And he published all those books as well. But he became my benefactor while I was in prison. And I was the only convicted felon in America or in the world that he's ever taken a risk with and published. And he doesn't really publish modern authors. Jordan Maxwell was an exception. I was an exception. Zechariah Sitchin was an exception. Neil Freer and Jack Barringer and Hugh Montgomery. I don't know if you know Hugh Montgomery, but all Hugh Montgomery writes about is Old England, Albion, all kinds of esoteric material about the different knights orders that came up in England, Cornwall, Wales. His books are fascinating, but they're not very popular. Very few people know about them. But his name is Hugh Montgomery. He's written 3 books that are fantastic. So other than that, Paul Tice only publishes reprints, old reprints. So this is why my bibliographies that I've published on my YouTube channel and Archaic's Facebook group, my bibliographies are absolutely packed with books a lot of people have never heard of. Those books are not floating around anymore.
Right.
So in the course of data mining all this material, my method, the only method you can really employ is not subject matter, because you're dealing with too much. If you're trying to find out everything in the universe, there's no filing system for that. So the only thing that I could really resort to was chronology.
Right.
Everything can be dated and everything can be guesstimated. So my files were in chronological order, and I started filling them up. And that's how I began seeing all the patterns. this is what led to discovery after discovery after discovery after discovery. And this is what led basically to the revelation that I am not discovering anything novel. I am bringing back to the table things that ancient men already knew, because the version of history that you and I have been told is bullshit, and that we were technologically advanced first, and we have devolved through a series of very cleverly concealed resets and cataclysms.